Three different screens.
Good to go, DJ.
For the folks online, that we're experiencing technical difficulties.
Everybody on Zoom right now, this is DJ with the ABZA. We had some technical difficulties, which is why we're starting a little later. So thank you for being patient and waiting. You ready to go? Okay. So it is 1:38 p.m. Of the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals. And I'm going to call the meeting to order on March 9th of 2022. Before we begin, this is an actual 7-person board. Currently, there's only 4 of us up here. So for those of you online or in the lobby, if you would like it to be heard, your petition be heard by everybody, then right now is your time to get up or raise your hand online and let Shelley know, and she'll table it till next month. Okay, good to go. The Area Board of Zoning and Appeals meeting is being held in person and virtually on the 4th floor of the county's council chambers of the county city building. I can't talk today. With Zoom, video, and phone teleconferencing options available via link and phone information posted on the website, sjcindiana.com/ABZA. The meeting call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 961-6443-3903, and the password is 543186. We ask that the board members state their name when making a motion and a second. And lastly, please silence your cell phones to do not disturb. Shelley, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Hawley? Mr. Moffett? Mr. Ritzma?
Here.
Mr. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Tavernier?
Here.
And Mr. Veldman?
Here. Okay.
We have 4 present.
We do have 4 present. All right, you ready? Can we have the first petition, please? I guess that one's tabled.
And Shelley, just so you don't read, the first petition was tabled prior to the meeting at the request of the petitioner. So then we'll start with technically petition number 2.
Location, 23607 State Road 23 Highway. Owner, SR23 Realty LLC. Requested action, variances. 1, from section 154.378 sub E. 2, to allow a pole sign with a 0-foot setback where 25-foot is required. Zoning C, Commercial District, subject to a final site development plan, county.
Shelley, could you click on the screen for me? Okay, Ryan Fellows, Area Plan Commission staff. You see on the slide here, we have the property just west of Mayflower Road, next to Hollywood Boulevard. And as you can see from this picture, a semi-truck did hit this sign in the fall. The former sign is where this temporary marquee sign is now, in line with that utility pole that's right there. The zoning ordinance would require a replacement pole sign to be set back 15 feet from the right-of-way, placing it in the parking lot's lane of travel, disrupting vehicle circulation. So kind of if you could imagine between the building and where those parked cars are. The replacement sign will be 20 feet from the road. Per state law, approval of this variance cannot be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The subject property features a continuous curb cut along State Route 23 and Hollywood Boulevard frontages. A monument-style sign could interfere with clear sight area requirements, impeding vision for drivers. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including this variance, cannot be affected in a substantially adverse manner, as the sign was existing. And strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The petitioner is proposing to replace a sign that was destroyed by a semi-truck using the existing sign cabinet with new poles that will be in the same height as the previous sign in a nearly identical location as there was there previously. Based on the criteria in state law, staff recommends approval of this variance.
Okay, good. Is the petitioner present? Yes. All right. You can make your way up there, name and address, please.
Mark Seigert, CEO of the SR23 Realty LLC, 23607 State Road 23 in South Bend, Indiana, 46614.
Okay. So what you got going on here?
November 1st, we had a semi that took down the sign at the shop. The shop's been an operating shop since 1940. I've been there roughly 19 years. We recabinet the sign, maintenance our property as well as we can, requesting to be able to fix the sign by reusing the cabinet and existing parts and pieces. The poles were damaged, so we're not going to change the footprint or the backdrop of anything. It will be basically what's been there since the shop's been around. So I'm just requesting to do that. The way we have the light situation, I pay for 2 AEP Dust of Dawns on either side of the building, one on Hollywood, one on 23 closer to the building to illuminate. It's a pretty large-sized parking lot. Without that sign up there with the lighting at night, the cars are dropped off, left there in the evening. There's not a whole lot of lighting that you can see. There's just, I think criminal element. It's letting them come by and do what they want to a customer's car while it's there in the evening. So I just request for both safety and the fact that it's been there so long, have not had any problems with any neighbors or anybody having a problem with the sign. I'm afraid if we run a tombstone or something smaller, it's going to cause issues where people are pulling out of Hollywood, or a lot of times a customer will pop in their car, they'll just drive straight out, there would be a sign in their way, and that could cause an accident, at highway speeds. So I'd request that we be able to replace the poles, put the cabinet back up, and basically have what we have for the last several years, and that's my request.
Okay. All right. Anybody lost my timer? Anybody got any questions? No? For me? I'm good. Okay. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I guess now we'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this petition, online or in the area? No. Is anybody here to speak against the petition, either online or in the area? No? Okay. Discussion to the public is now closed. Anybody got anything? No?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested, while the intent of the ordinance is to, maintain the look of where we want all these signs to be. Obviously, this was an existing sign that sat there for quite a while, so replacing it as was seems to be in compliance with what we're actually trying to achieve. It was, when it's already there, then it should still be there as well, too.
Sid Schaefer, I'll second.
Motion and a second. Shelley?
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Hello?
Ve-
Can you hear me?
We can.
We
Hello?
can- Yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Glenn Brown. I own Coast to Coast Logistics. I have a property at 23 I'm sorry, 23607, State Road 23. I'm good with what the guy said who owned the shop there. I happen to know him personally. I've just came to the neighborhood, but I do plan on moving in that property. My only concern is I just hope it's not too bright where it,
Sir?
yes,
Hey,
yes.
we've already heard and closed the public discussion.
Public. So I don't count. I mean, I'm not against it, but I'm saying I own a property right there. I have no. You send me a letter. I thought I could at least state my opinion.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we've already closed the public discussion.
Okay,
The
well, I
chairperson
really don't
called
have.
for public input, and nobody indicated they were interested, so that the public hearing was closed.
Well, I mean, I don't really have a problem with it anyway. I like the guy with the Napa shop. Hopefully, it's just not. I don't know about a light. Shouldn't. Hopefully, it don't affect my property where it's too bright. I doubt if it do. Like I say, he's been there a lot longer than me. I'm good with it. No problem. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. You were in the middle of reading.
Mr.
Calling for the
Ritzma?
vote.
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, grants your variance, or your variance is granted, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you, sir. Number 3.
Location, 50792 State Road 933 and 19689 Palisade Avenue. Owner, Caden Real Estate LLC. Requested actions. Variances, number 1, from section 154.182 sub D 1B to allow the front yard south to include a parking area 10 feet from the right-of-way instead of a minimum 15 feet setback. Number 2, from section 154.182 from the required side yard setback east of 20 feet to 10 feet. Variances 3, 4, and 5 have been withdrawn by the petitioner. Number 6, amended variance from section 154.335 from the side east yard requiring screening of a compact row of 24-inch high shrubs for an off-street parking area to a 6-foot privacy fence. Number 7, from section 154.419 sub A1 from the required 24-foot aisles for perpendicular spaces for an off-street parking area to 20-foot aisles. Number 8, from section 154.419 sub A3 from the required painted lines, raised curbs, or other means to indicate individual spaces to identify parking spaces in an off-street parking area to nothing. And amended variance number 9 from section 154.422 from the required 4 minimum ADA parking spaces to 1. Zoning C, Commercial District, County.
Okay, Ryan Fellows again. This slide you see, State Route, 50792, State Route 933, which is the auto sales lot for S&H Auto Sales. The property is Zone C Commercial with a vacant lot recently purchased by the auto seller to expand their auto sales lot to the east. This next property to the east has a single-family home on it, shown here on the right. And here's a picture of the vacant lot looking west from Palisades Avenue. And here's the existing auto sales lot. And looking northeast along Palisades. And I just included this picture to show that the existing auto sales lot does not have striping, painted lines to indicate where the parking is. And then since the packet went out, the site plan has changed. We've met with the petitioner, discussed several of the items, and gotten a revised site plan, which I shared via email. And there was an initial revision and then a second revision for the final revision. So variances 1 and 2 were unchanged. Variance 1 is to allow the front yard, which is the south side, to include parking area 10 feet from the right-of-way line instead of the minimum 15 feet. And variance 2 is a required side yard setback, which is on the east side, of 20 feet, reduced down to 10 feet. Staff recommends denial of these variances. And per state law, staff believes that this would be injurious to public health, safety, morals, or welfare. As noted in the zoning ordinance for C Commercial District, Section 154.180, intent, special attention should be paid to buffering whenever this district is located adjacent to any residential district or residential uses. Diminished buffering is contrary to the general welfare of the community. To the use and value of the adjacent area, let's see. The second criteria in state law, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variances, should not be diminished and affected in a substantially adverse manner. Diminished buffering would affect the use and value of the area adjacent. Strict application of the chapters of the terms of the chapter would not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. This property is able to be used equally well as other properties in similar circumstances in the county. And I'm sliding back to the site plan slide. As Shelley said, variances 3, 4, and 5 have been withdrawn by the petitioner, and this revised site plan does show that. That does include what we call type 2 landscaping along the eastern side, which is shown by that green row. Type 2 landscaping is evergreens. It's a double row of staggered evergreens that have to be at least 6 feet high. And there's also trees. There's a row of 3 trees in the front that are ornamental trees, and then there's going to be 2 landscape islands for trees as well in this parking lot. So petitioner does wish to revise variance number 6, which, as Shelley read off, is just to request a variance for the east side to, instead of the required compact row of 24-inch high shrubs off from the off-street parking lot, and change that requirement to a 6-foot high privacy fence. The petitioner said that they will comply with the front compact row of shrubs, and there is not a need for compact row of shrubs for the rear. Staff does recommend denial of a revised variance 6 so that the compact row of shrubs would still be required in addition to the other landscape screening on the eastern side to help add additional landscape buffering. So per the state law criteria, the revised variance, we believe, would be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. Per section 154.330 intent, the landscape regulations of the zoning ordinance, landscaping is an essential element in the site design process and is an important feature in promoting the public health, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare of the county. Second criteria, the use and value of the area adjacent included the variance would be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Landscape is intended to mitigate the incompatibilities between adjacent land uses to reduce the negative impact of higher density land uses on less intensive adjacent land uses, provide a critical visual and noise buffering effect between higher intensity districts and less intense districts, lessen the impact of development on the environment by reducing glare, heat buildup, and break up large expanses of pavement as to reduce impervious surface area, storm water runoff, and the levels of pollutants from non-point sources. And the third criteria is strict application of the terms of the chapter, and that will again come down to the property is able to be used equally well as any other property in a similar situation in the county. Variances 7 and 8 are unchanged as when the packet first went out, and staff does recommend approval for them. Variance 7 is for 24-foot aisles for perpendicular spaces being reduced to 20-foot wide aisles. And this is closely related to variance number 8, which requires painted lines, and they've requested it to be eliminated so that there was no painted lines. By definition, if you have no painted lines, you don't have aisles depicted or on the pavement. Staff does feel that the affected parking lines and aisles would not be used in general by the general public, but are intended for use by the motor vehicle sales staff with vehicles owned, controlled by the property owner. Therefore, the property owner's employees will be in an environment where the only vehicles are going to be owned by the property owner, and they're the only ones that would be at risk or exposure from the difficulty of maneuvering such vehicles. And similarly, for the use of the adjacent land, parking lines and aisles should not affect the neighboring properties. And in a review of other motor vehicle sales lots in the area show that most of them either do not have parking lines or aisles that are reduced. So they're either worn away or the lines were not there. Therefore, these variances would allow the property to be used as well as other motor vehicle sales parking lots. And then finally, we have variance number 9, which has been revised to follow the staff's recommendation to only have 1 ADA parking space instead of 4. Staff believes that this would not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and welfare of the community due to the parking spaces are used to store vehicles as part of inventory rather than for customer employee use. And this has been similar to other parking situations like this where there's motor vehicle sales lots and not for customer and employee uses. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner and their representative is here as well.
Need a break after that?
I'm doing good. I'm ready to bounce back and forth between the site plan or any of these criteria.
You guys got any questions?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So we're not worrying about the existing area of the location. It's only these 3 lots that are being bought, that have been bought and going to want to be parked upon, correct? We don't have to worry about anything else.
The zoning ordinance treats this as one zoning lot, and that's why the handicap parking space will end up being next to the building. But all of these variances, other than that, will just be for the new lot that's vacant right now that's set to be built upon.
Thank you.
Donnie?
Good.
Sue? You good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, thanks, Ryan. Okay, I understand, so I know we got a lot going on here, we got 10 minutes, okay? So name and address, and let's make it happen.
Hi, I'm Deborah Hughes. I'm project civil engineer from Surveying and Mapping, 3220 Southview Drive, Elkhart. And with me is Dave Jamison, who's the owner of the LLC and the owner of the property. This is a successful used car lot, and the owner would like to expand. They purchased the adjoining commercially zoned lot recently, although he's been trying to buy it for many years. The property's small. It's about 150 feet by 95 feet, so not a lot of space, but the goal is to provide additional space for the cars that are on sale in the facility. And as Ryan said, we are asking for some variances. We do think there's a few practical difficulties, which is why we're here. Number one, the south setback, we're providing 10 feet instead of 15 as the zoning ordinance requires. The current setback is about 2.5 feet if on the property that's currently developed and the existing curb right here. So we're providing 4 times what's there existing. It isn't 15, but it's still substantially more than the existing. To have additional spaces would further decrease these aisle widths of 20 and 22 feet, and so we're asking for the variance to avoid doing that. The side yard, we're asking for 10 feet instead of 20 feet, and again, that's because of the narrow 95-foot width of the lot. Currently, they have 27 feet in between an existing curb line and the proposed parking spaces, which seems adequate, except you can see that there's 2 light poles that they're going to be retaining with some curbing around them. So those will be hazards out in the middle of that 27 feet and keep that from being used as fully as it might appear. To gain another 10 feet would further narrow down either this 20-foot aisle or this 27-foot aisle. As Ryan said, the parking lot shrubs, we have added a row of compact shrubs along the south side where they'll be visible to the residents and the across the street neighbor. With this 10-foot side setback, there really isn't room for the type 2 landscaping and the shrubs. So the type 2 landscaping would be dense, it's tall plants, 6-foot high at planting, and would provide a nice green buffer between the 2 lots. The shrubs at 24 inches aren't going to add anything substantial to that. We appreciate Ryan's support on 7 and 8 with the fact that an auto sales lot doesn't need the striping and the aisle widths that a regular parking lot might need. And we also appreciate the support. We've added 1 handicap parking space here near the office. Standard parking lot would merit 4 spaces if it was used by the general public. But this is for storage of cars, and 1 for employees should be adequate. I'd be happy to address any questions. Thank you.
Okay. I got a couple questions. So the couple questions that I have is, so are you going to stripe this? You're not wanting to stripe this at all, right? Because the
That's
other
correct.
parking lot isn't striped?
Correct.
So then you're theoretically not going to have any actual aisles that are going to be shortened or narrowed because they're not actually going to be there.
That's
right?
correct.
They're not designated spaces. So that's one of my questions. My number 2 question is, what is the reasoning behind not wanting the 24-inch shrubs? Just because you don't want that 2 feet or that 3 feet that it's going to take up? Or is it just because you're trying to maximize your space?
So the 10-foot side setback or east setback is going to be taken up almost completely by the type 2 landscaping row. As Ryan said, it's a double row of staggered large shrubs such as a spruce. So those would more than take up that 10-foot, and there's really not room for an additional row of low shrubs, and those would not provide much buffer at all for the neighbor if they have the large 6-foot shrubs. So that is the reason.
All right, and so I missed a question that I was going to ask you. I'm sorry, but on section number 6, on petition number 6, it says that we're requiring screening of compact row of 24-inch high shrubs for an offset parking area to a 6-foot high privacy fence. Where's the privacy fence?
So the privacy fence was in our original petition, and that's what we thought would be more desirable than the landscaping. The original petition had no landscaping on the east side, just the privacy fence.
So instead of the privacy fence, we're doing this, whoops, sorry. Instead of the privacy fence, we're doing the 6-foot pine trees.
The
that are
type 2 double
staggered-
row,
That are staggered.
yes,
Instead
because
of the
that
privacy
meets the
fence.
ordinance.
All
The
right, I'm
fence
sorry.
is actually a variance in itself. and we didn't want to have any more variances, so we just went with the type 2 landscaping to meet that requirement.
I think I want to double check maybe with Randy and Abby on this, but the way we advertised this was for the replacement of the 24-inch high shrubs with a 6-foot privacy fence. So I don't think we can amend it to remove the 6-foot privacy fence altogether. And I'm sorry if in our conversations we didn't make that clear or not.
I would agree with that interpretation. We can change stuff on the fly if it makes it more closely aligned with what the zoning ordinance would require, but in this case, removing the fence would make it less close to what the ordinance is requiring, because you're essentially asking for nothing there instead. So it would have to be re-advertised for that one, if that's really what you want.
The fence is a variance in itself, so to be closer to the ordinance is to not have the fence.
There was wording in the other ordinance, I'm sorry, in the other variance where you're talking about, originally variance 4 was to remove the full screening type 2 landscaping to a 6-foot high privacy fence. And in our conversation, we said, okay, well, instead of not doing the type 2 landscaping, you said, yes, we'll do the type 2 landscaping, and that's fine, and that kind of settled variance number 4. But when the variance was written for number 6, what was applied for and what made it into the advertisement was, instead of doing the 24-inch compact row of greenery, of shrubs, the replacement to that would be a 6-foot privacy fence. And I think, originally the thought process is that you've got one 6-foot privacy fence that's good for both the full screening and the compact row. And the way that it was advertised, it would only be able to be honored as a replacement of the 24-inch high shrubs could only be replaced with a 6-foot privacy fence, or it could be denied, in which case it would be 24-inch high shrubs would be allowed, and the 6-foot privacy fence would not be required, or you could re-advertise.
All right, folks, can I just clarify what we're dealing with here? Because there's a lot flying around and a lot of different variances. So we have 4 different types of required landscaping in the zoning ordinance. Foundation, perimeter, parking lot, like landscaping, and then parking lot screening. They asked for variances originally from parking lot screening and then perimeter, that would be the buffer yard. Deborah came forward and said, hey, we don't need a variance for the perimeter or the buffer yard landscaping. We'll meet the requirements there. But for the parking lot screening, that would also be required adjacent to residential, which is the 154335, that off-street parking area screening. Instead of doing that compact shrubs, we'll go ahead and put a fence. So it's kind of like a double buffer for fence and type 2 landscaping.
Yeah, the fence is fine. The owner's willing to do that.
Does-
So we are putting, so just to dumb it down a little bit, we're doing the pine trees, the staggered row of pine trees, and a 6-foot fence against the residential, from the parking lot to the residential house.
Correct. The buffer landscaping as revised is what meets the requirements of the ordinance. And then the fence that they're proposing would be in place of the parking area shrubs. Is that correct, Deb?
That's correct, yes.
Yep. So Ryan went ahead and said, meet the requirements of the ordinance. That was his recommendation. But if you all saw fit that the fence and the type 2 buffer yard landscaping that's proposed is sufficient, then that would be, you could grant that.
For portion 6.
For 6.
Yes.
Yes.
Does that provide any more clarity?
Which way is it gonna lay? Is it fence and then shrub or trees and then house, or house?
The type 2 landscaping would be west of the property line. The fence would be west of the property line, and then the house. So car, type 2 landscaping, fence, house.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
One other question I had, the type 2 plant species, it says arborvitae in the site plan, but there's different varieties of arborvitaes, so what specifically are you guys proposing to use as the plant material for that screening?
I want to clarify that there was a revised site plan, and then there was an amended revised site plan, and the arborvitae was on the first revision. The second revision replaced the word arborvitae with type 2 landscaping. So if there were going to be arborvitae, the zoning ordinance considers that a narrow form of evergreen, which are treated as only being allowed for 10% coverage. And it has to be 3 times as many, but the height is only 4 feet as compared to 6 feet required for regular evergreen trees. I hope that makes it clearer.
So
more
the
clear.
type 2 provides multiple options. So rather than be specific and get into difficulties with specifics, we just said that we'll meet the type 2, whatever those rules are, and they're spelled out in the zoning ordinance with options.
But they can't be just all one type of that thin arborvitae, correct?
It could not just be arborvitae, it could only be up to 10% arborvitae.
Okay.
So then what's the rationale for doing the fence first, then the plant material? Why not, between the residential property next to it, why not do the landscaping material, then the fence?
Well, usually a fence is put very close to the property line to provide a designation of where it is. Doesn't have to be. It also makes it easier for the property owner to maintain the plants if they're on the car side, I'll say. But it could be the other way if that
asking.
was important.
As far as the lighting is concerned, are we gonna have directional lighting that's gonna face straight down? Are we gonna have them to where they're,
Yeah, so the site
Flared
plan shows, notes that they are shielded LED fixtures. There's 3 new poles. If you want to switch back to the site plan on the screen, please. Yeah, so there's 1, 2, 3 new poles that are LED shielded fixtures downcast. There are 2 existing poles that'll have an additional head added with the same downcast fixture. And then the neighbor that lives to the east asked that the existing fixtures also be cast down and shielded, which they are not. So the owner is willing to do that as well.
okay. That eliminates my next question. All right. You good? Good. Good? Good? All right, thank you. All right. So I'll open this up to the public now. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak in favor or on Zoom? No? Okay. Is there anybody that's wishing to speak against this particular petition in the room or on Zoom? Nope, okay. Well,
I'll go ahead and add that you did receive an email of remonstrance from Kyle Lindsay, and that included several pictures, and I think their issues were kind of already discussed, particularly with the light shining in, and the petitioners already said that they would address that problem.
Yep.
So I just wanted to announce that so everyone in the room knew.
okay. All right, so the public portion is now closed. You guys got anything?
So how do we have to,
We're gonna,
do we do this individually? Do we have to spell out each one?
so we can approve them all, deny them all, or we can do 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really up to however you guys want to do it. If you feel like you have multiple that you want to do the same thing to, that would be fine. If you can't make up your mind on each one, you could do them individually. It's up
You
to
could
you.
say, you could say, I technically want to make a motion for A, B, and Z, to approve A, B, and C, but deny D, E,
Could
and
if you
F.
wanted to. I think that'd be a little complex,
Yeah.
but you could do it.
Okay.
Who's gonna take a stab at it?
Well, I can't, so.
I was gonna say, you could even do them one at a time if that makes you more comfortable, but you don't have to.
Well, I have the email I received with the revised, updated, amended site plan, whichever version that is, but I assume it's the last one since it's the one the guy got yesterday. I assume that is the correct one that we received yesterday, is the updated one? Okay. So follow me on this. Mr. Chairman, based off the facts presented and with what the site looks like both in person and by these pictures and the pictures provided by the remonstrator, I would make a motion that for variance request number 1, that we would deny variance request as 1 and maintain the 15-foot setback. I'm sorry, no, 1, I would recommend we accept that and maintain and allow them to go to 10-foot setback. Number 2, on the side setback, I would make a motion to deny this as requested. I think 10-foot between where that driveway is and how close that would be a undue burden on the neighbor to the east of this site. So that would be my proposal for that. Number 6, I would accept the petitioner's request to have the 6-foot or whatever requirements type 2, as she stated, and the fence. I would motion for number 7 to approve, number 8 to approve, and number 9 to approve as requested.
And I'll second.
Read it back, Donnie.
Do I have to?
All right, so to get this straight, your motion was for petition number 1 is to approve the 10-foot.
Yep.
Right?
Approve the 10-foot on the south side.
South side's fine.
Approve the 10-foot. Number 2 is to deny their 10-foot to 20-foot, or 20-foot to 10-foot, I'm sorry.
Correct?
Number 6 is to approve the type 2 plus the fence. And
As
number-
amended, I'm guessing?
Yes, as
As
amended.
amended.
Okay. And that was what you were seconding, Donnie?
Yep.
Okay.
And then number 7, 8, and 9 to approve.
I think 9 was as amended.
Yes, to 1 ADA parking space,
Yeah.
correct. Yes.
And that was what you seconded?
Correct.
Okay. So we
Yeah,
got
just take
1
them up a little.
approve, 2 deny, 6 approve as amended, 7 approve, 8 approve, 9 approve as amended.
Correct. Okay, let's take the, Shelley, we're ready for the vote.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Velman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. This is going to be fun. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, finds that variance number 1 is approved, variance number 2 is denied, variance number 6 is approved as amended, variance number 7 is approved, variance number 8 is approved, and variance number 9 is approved as amended, and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you.
Good job.
Hey, I'm here for the crew, man. All right, number 4? Yes, 4, please.
Location 1505 Roger Street and the unaddressed abutting parcel to the north. Owner, Brian and Jory Musel and Chris Stevens. Requested action, variance 1 from section 4.01K, sub K, to allow a lot width of 25 feet where 100 feet is required to allow the adjustment of a property line for a parcel containing an existing house. Zoning R1 Single Family District, Osceola.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. So the residents of the home seen here, based on a mortgage survey they received 30 years ago, believed that they in fact owned the property, the entire property that contained their house. They recently found out that this unfortunately was not true. A portion of the home site actually falls on adjacent property, which is owned by the co-petitioner, Chris Stevens. The two property owners got together to resolve the issue, and Chris will transfer property to get the house all on one lot that will then be owned by the Musels. And in order to shift this property line, it will require a subdivision, which is why we need this lot width variance. And really, the lot is effectively getting wider and larger in area. The reason we need the variance is because the lot width is based on frontage, and there is limited frontage in that it is just the half right-of-way of Rogers, because Rogers effectively dead ends into the lot. Staff recommends approval of the variance. When we turn to the state law criteria, we find that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. There are many justifications for requiring a minimum lot width, but none are really at play here. The house is already readily visible from the right-of-way for emergency vehicles, and since the lot is actually becoming wider, there's plenty of space for, there's more space in the future for septic if needed. When you turn to the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, it'll not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. It's already a pre-existing residential use, and it's actually going to increase the use and value of the house itself because it'll be on one parcel that can be owned by one entity in the future. And we find that the strict applications of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in that they would deny a land transfer which allows the homeowners to actually own the property that encloses their home site, and it would also deny a subdivision wherein everything else related to the lot, it's actually becoming more in conformance with the subdivision and zoning ordinances of Osceola. It's just with respect to the frontage that it won't comply. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions? Nope.
So I didn't, when you start talking about where all the lot lines are and stuff, so basically, the house is not on the lot they bought, correct?
Basically, I think, I'm not sure if that line between the lots is really accurate. I think it actually cuts through the lot, but, and Mike can correct me, I believe they actually own the southern lot there.
Okay.
So,
That's why I didn't know if it was extending north or extending south. I appreciate it, because I always wondered what was back there, so it gave me an excuse to drive down the road.
there you go.
I drive by it every day, and my house is just a little bit north, so yeah. I knew it was back there.
Good?
Yeah, well, yeah. And readily accessible or seen from the road is a little ambiguous there. That's the only thing.
I'm still in the right of way here. I
You
mean,
can see it. You took the picture at the right time of year. How does that sound?
that is very true.
Good?
I'm good.
Okay. Name and address,
Mike,
please.
Mike Danch from Dan Charner Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the petitioners. As Sean had mentioned, what had happened was over 30 years ago when they purchased this property, when they closed, all they got was a mortgage survey. Mortgage survey is not a boundary survey, so it's not actually specifying what you are purchasing. So someone ran out there and did a mortgage survey, might have found one iron, and based on that said, oh yeah, this is what you're actually purchasing. Come forward in time, 30 years, what we actually find out is that the house encroaches onto the neighbor's property to the south, as you had mentioned, and also the garage is on that property to the south. And when we went out and actually did the survey, this would clean up everything. We went back to the section corner and did everything in so we could see exactly where the properties were. And one of the petitioners, Mr. Stevens, is willing to work with our petitioner, the people that actually own the house, to go ahead and basically transfer property back and forth so that we're able to do a minor subdivision, create a legal lot of record for the existing house. What you saw on the site plan was the piece of property to the south of what that legal lot would be, which would still be owned by Mr. Stevens. That will be created as an outlot. He owns all the property south of that all the way down to Lincoln Way. So that's not going to cause any issue about being landlocked because he will still be that owner. What this will also do is what Sean had mentioned, is to make that parcel larger. It was not large enough per the county standards when this was probably done back 30 or 40 years ago. So what we would end up doing is bringing it in, and it will meet the half-acre standard for the size of lots for the county and also for the town of Osceola for a house that's on well and septic. So what we're trying to do is clean up everything. The unusual part here is that there was a subdivision done several decades ago to the east. That's how Rogers Street got created and the lots you see along that side. There's also a 7-foot alley that no one probably knows even exists that's there as well. This is outside of that subdivision, so the only frontage we have, as Sean had mentioned, is just that portion of Rogers Street. And that's the request we're asking for the variance for that frontage. Otherwise, nothing else is changing. We're just trying to bring everything into compliance. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Question? You guys got anything? Nope.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Curiosity, but probably not a question he's willing to answer, so.
Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this petition, please step forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, okay. Anybody wishing to speak against this petition, please step forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Nope. All right. Discussion for the public is now closed. Anybody else got anything? Nope. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the variance as presented.
Motion?
I'll second it. Sid Schaefer.
Sid will second it. Motion and a second.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today from the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, is granted your variance and will issue written findings of the facts. Thanks, sir. Number 5.
Location, 50902 Kenilworth Road. Irene Borziak. Requested action, variance 1 from section 154.070 sub A, 3 to allow an accessory structure on a lot without a primary structure. Zoning R, single-family district.
All right, Abby with Area Plan Commission. This property contains the remnants of a single-family home, detached garage, and detached pole building. The single-family home was condemned by the building department in September 2021 after being destroyed by a fire. The petitioner came to the building department to pull a demo permit for the property in January and was advised by staff that a variance would be required for an accessory structures without a primary structure. The petitioner does plan to construct a new single-family home, and in consulting with the building commissioner, staff's opinion would be that approval of the variance would be fine with the condition that the petitioner pull a building permit to construct the new single-family home within 1 year or demolish the accessory structures. And just as a side note, council and commissioners had asked staff to look at a number of condemned properties in the county to move forward with demolition hearings on them. We have about 20 that we've been working on, and this was one of them. So it's obviously more ideal for the petitioner to pull a demo permit, do it himself, rather than the county go through the long legal expensive process to get a demolition order approved and do it ourselves and lien the property. So in looking at the state code criteria for the granting of a variance, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare because allowing a condemned property to remain in place would be injurious, and demolition and removal of the home would improve the public safety. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property would not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The petitioner's indicated he plans to construct a single-family home on the property. And strict application to the terms of the chapter would result in a practical difficulty because the timing of the project creates a practical difficulty in that the petitioner wishes to demolish and remove the existing home prior to beginning construction on the new single-family home. Happy to answer any questions, and I believe the petitioner is here today.
Seems kind of funny that because the house burnt, but there's still accessory structures, in order to move forward with things, they have to actually get a variance beforehand to be able to do it. It's chicken and egg theory, I guess, in my mind, but okay. Understood. Usually when this happens, they're asking for forgiveness when they've done something wrong to begin with and come back and ask for permission to do it right. In this case, something wrong happened to them.
Yep.
To a certain degree, yeah. Yeah, I mean, fire, okay. And I guess the staff recommendation was to grant the
Approve.
variances requested with the condition that they build a house within a year?
Or demolish the accessory structures. Well, not that they build it, they pull a building permit. If they pull a building permit to construct the home within 1 year, that would give them an additional 2 years.
2 years.
Building permits are valid for 2 years. So they could wait until March of next year, pull the building permit, and then still have another couple years to get the construction done.
But in the meantime, they'd still be able to demolish the structure that's had the fire.
Yes and yes, yes.
Say that
That would
again.
bring the property into compliance.
So the goal is to tear the place down that burned, but
Yeah.
they can't get a permit to do that until they get a variance, so allow the existing structures that aren't burnt to stay.
In terms of the timing, the petitioner's here, and I think could speak to
Yeah, I'm not worried about
that.
the timing, I think it's funny.
Kind of the silliest thing you've seen.
Okay.
I understand the process behind it.
Well, I get it, but
That's good? Okay. Name and address, please.
Stephen Breeziak, 50754 Galaxy Drive, Granger, Indiana, 46530. Basically, yeah, I'm just trying to basically tear down the existing structure that's there and build a single-family residence. And right now, there's already a pole barn and a detached two-car garage that was already existing. And I just want to keep that and just demolish the house that's there now.
Was this were you living here when this burned down?
No, I live in Granger. No, it's a property I bought from somebody.
Okay.
Could you advise a little bit on the timeline moving forward?
I mean, I would like to get it demolished at least by this year and hopefully start construction this year or early next year. But I know you guys don't want to have that property sitting how it is right now, so I'd be glad to demolish it.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? No? All right. That was easy.
Man,
Thanks, sir.
yeah, that was a surprise. All right, appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. I guess I will open it up to the public. Is anybody here to speak for the petition, either in house or on Zoom? No? Okay. Anybody wishing to speak against the petition in house or on Zoom? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Guys, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I think that because we have to abide by the letter of the law, it makes the most sense to approve this petition as requested, so the demolition can take place, and then they can start rebuilding the house.
Okay, a motion
well, I guess I'll second it.
and a
See, Schaefer.
second.
Well, is that under the condition?
With,
that-
yeah, with the conditions as stated in the guidelines from the staff recommendations, correct? With pulling a permit within 1 year or with demolishing the other accessory structures within 1 year's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Velman,
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier.
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you. Number 6.
Location 17204 Madison Road, Donald Horan et al. Requested actions. Number 1, from section 154.092 sub A, to allow a lot area of 10 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required. Number 2, from section 154.092 sub D, to allow a front yard setback of 9 foot where a minimum of 35 feet is required for an existing house on Lot 1 of a proposed 1-lot and 2 outlot subdivision. Zoning A Agricultural District, County.
Good afternoon, Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. The petitioner here would like to sell that, the square 40-acre portion there to the southwest to an adjacent farmer. All of this, the entire property that's outlined there together is one legal lot of record. And if they split this off, it would lose that legal status. So we had to require a subdivision for this split to occur. Consequently, we need to also require that lot area variance, and then the setback variance is for the existing house. It's already non-conformant with regard to the setback to the center of the road, but it's going to heighten the non-conformance slightly with the dedication that's required as part of the subdivision. Staff recommends approval of the variance. There are just going to be 2 outlots that are being split off of some of the tillable acreage, 40 acres in the southwest, and then a little over 8 to the east. So there won't be creation of any more buildable lots beyond what is already there with the existing house. So when we turn to the state law criteria, we find that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare because it will not result in the opportunity for a new residential use in the agricultural district. We find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, essentially for the same reasons. It won't allow for residential use beyond the existing residential use. And we find that the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties, as they would prevent the transfer of tillable acreage to a farmer, which could potentially enhance the future viability of this agriculturally productive land. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Pretty straightforward.
Crystal clear.
Anything? Nope. Okay. Is the petitioner here?
Petitioners represented online, sir.
Okay. Name and address, please.
My name is Bernard Feeney. I'm a registered land surveyor with Plymouth Land Surveying at 1405 North Michigan in Plymouth, Indiana. I am here this afternoon on behalf of the estate of Alice Horine. Roger Horine, her son, is the one who engaged our firm. We began conversations with Area Plan Commission some time ago about this particular piece of property. The discussion seemed to be fairly straightforward, I thought, to be able to sell the 40 acres to the adjoining property owner. However, because of deed peculiarities, it required a submittal to the Board of Zoning Appeals. At the same time as that occurred, the heirs wanted to place the home or the farmstead on a 10-acre lot occupying the west side of the front parcel of land and create an outlot on the east side of that same tract. The third outlot, the 40-acre piece, will be sold to the Ladigs. They are the farm entity immediately west and next door. This Board of Zoning Appeals, if approved, will accomplish all that and put the family farmhouse on a legal tract of land. At this particular point in time, the plat has been submitted. On March the 3rd, it went through technical review and is scheduled for hearing soon. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Guys got any questions?
Not really.
No, I think he summed up, when he said peculiarity of the deed, yes, that kind of sums this up.
Okay, cool. Thanks, sir. We'll open it up to the public. Is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this petition? None on Zoom. Seeing none. Is there anybody here wishing to speak against this petition in-house or on Zoom? Seeing none, the discussion is now closed to the public. Anything, guys? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the variances as requested. We appreciate the outlots being created, and only one buildable lot will remain for this subdivision, quote unquote.
Second?
Motion and a second. Shelley?
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Veldman?
Yes.
Mr. Ritzma?
Yes.
Mr. Tavernier?
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning and Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue written findings of the facts. Thanks, sir. Okay. So now we've got, you guys are good to go. You don't need to stay in here for anything. All right, so we got findings of the facts, and what is this? A month? 2 months of, January minutes? February minutes in here too?
Yeah, it's 2 sets of minutes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the finding of the facts as written.
Second?
okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
I would also make a motion to approve the January 12th, 2022 minutes as written.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. February's?
I can't motion that one, can I?
I would suggest you don't make the motion, but you can vote on it.
I don't think you can.
No, you don't, you don't.
I don't know.
You is there,
Perked up and looked at me, he's like,
is
what
there
did I
any-
do?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, since nobody else has. Okay,
Ooh, there was tone there.
Second?
okay. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. One last motion that needs to be made.
Because it was the
To
minutes,
adjourn?
it's okay.
I
It's
make a
not
motion.
controversial issue.
That's a non-controversial issue, that was just,
Call that a non-controversial.
I would hope so, it's just minutes,
seems
I
pretty
mean, as long as they're
controversial for a
typed
second, I don't
correctly.
know.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second?
All right. Okay. All in favor? Golly.
We gotta pull teeth on this.
You didn't do anything all day. What have you been doing?